We are here to talk about the sector codes. As the moderator had indicated, the term sector code might be new to you, but it's nothing very special, nothing confusing, and my presentation will clear it up to you very soon. This forum came into existence. We've been working on the development of these sector codes. You will be aware that other sectors, such as construction, tourism, financial services, the first process that we've already started, it's the 3 months process of gazetting of this document. It is on the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture as we currently speak. And for the period of 3 months up to middle of February, this document is there for you to access. There's also an email on that website for you to give a feedback or whatever input you want to do. And so what we're basically saying is that this document, it's a draft. Without your input, this document is not complete. This forum, the Event Technical and Production Services Forum, as I'd already mentioned, was established in 2010 through the facilitation of the Department of Trade and Industry, which was what it was known then. Today it's now called Trade, Industry and Competitions. Its purpose is to transform the industry so that it's guided by the broad-based Black economic empowerment policy. As you are aware that since our democracy in 1994, the South African society remains characterized by racially biased income and social inequalities. In general, the B-BBEE sector codes that we are discussing with you today, it's a mechanism that we want to use to address these inequalities and also to mobilize the energy of South Africans so as to contribute towards the sustained economic growth, the development, and the social transformation in our industry. Why is it necessary to develop the sector codes? There were challenges in this sector that necessitated the establishment of this forum. The challenges that we noticed were, one, is that our sector is not regulated. And so anyone can enter, do as they want, and in many instances, cause so much damage. We also noted that these white companies that are dominating this sector use black faces as fronts and create an impression that those black faces own these entities. And of course, you know that government is the biggest procurer of services in the country. Many of these white dominating companies are the ones who get these evergreen contracts with the government. And so we thought it was necessary that this landscape should change so that we allow entry to this sector by our black entrants. The vision of this forum is to have a prosperous event, technical and production services industry that is globally competitive, inclusive, that is very highly skilled and characterized by shared growth and a strong commitment to human capital and the development of knowledge and the skills. Our objective, of course, is to define the scope and the principles and the framework in which this industry will be transformed. We also want to have an increased number of black people that own and control these assets in our industry. We also want to facilitate the partnerships in the industry amongst other stakeholders, especially between government, labor, civil society, and business. And of course, I won't go through all those because the document in front of you has all those objectives listed accordingly. I now want to take this opportunity to introduce the forum members. As I had mentioned earlier, it's 10 associations that form the core of the forum, and these 10 associations represent everyone in the event, technical, and production services sector. The person who actually necessitated the formation of the forum was Mr. Freddie Nyatela. As you know, Mr. Freddie Nyatela works with a group of many black young technicians. In 2010, he approached Parliament through the Portfolio Committee of the Department of Trade and Industry, and he asked them, what is it that they are doing to assist our sector to transform to be what it should be. And Mr. Nyatela is here representing SARA, which is short for South African Roadies Association, and please welcome him sitting on the extreme right. Next to him is the president of SAMPA, short for South African Music Promoters Association, the same association that I belong to. And please welcome Mr. China Mpololo. Next to Mr. Mpololo is a member from EXA, short for Exhibitions and Events Association of Southern Africa. And today, EXA represented by Ms. Leanne Elder. Please welcome her. I didn't introduce myself, but I've mentioned that I also come from SAMPA. My name is Opa Salimani. I'm chairing this forum. There's 6 other members of the forum that are not here with us today. They couldn't, unfortunately, make it, and I want to introduce them. My deputy president is Mr. Kevin Jones from SACIA. He's unfortunately not here. Also from IPO is Mr. Quinton Fredericks. From IFIA is Ms. Janet Lendy. From SIPA and SAICA is Ms. Sue Gannon. And from SACI is Mr. Clanton de Kock. And last but not least, from TUMSA is Mr. Gebi Leroux. Please give them a warm hands of welcome. We're now going to present to you the sector codes. Over the last few years, individuals from the various organizations in the events and audiovisual sector have put aside their differences to work on the development of an industry-specific B-BBEE scorecard for our sector. Some of these organizations represent individuals, some represent companies, and some think that our proposed codes do not go too far. And some believe that our codes don't go even far enough. The current draft is far from, of course, being perfect. As I've mentioned, that it is a draft. We call it a very radical draft from what exists currently in the market. And of course, with your input, it will be more radical. For example, we've not addressed the issue of the special purpose commercial vehicles that are often used in the film and entertainment industry to manage the risk and ring-fence the income expenditure related to a particular audiovisual production. These SPVs are established to serve as a particular purpose. One of the questions we've often been asked since we started our public engagement is that why we need an industry scorecard, and I'm sure you can all answer this. And if we do a scorecard, if we do need a scorecard, why now when the events and audio-visual industry has been decimated by events of the past, such as the COVID? The answer, of course, lies in the quote from the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. I won't go into that quote. It's in your document. Since the removal of the state of the national disaster, you'll have heard several politicians talk about the Build Back Better. And bearing in mind the statement from the President and the Minister, the choice is very clear. We can either embrace the generic code of good practice, or we can develop our own industry-specific scorecard that serves our own need. Using the generic scorecard, it's a bit like using a pipe wrench to remove a nut from a bolt. Yes, it will work, but a spanner, of course, is a far more appropriate tool. What we are proposing to you is to cast a bespoke spanner that allows us to implement a transformation agenda within our industry sector that is so specific to our needs. This proposed scorecard covers a variety of events formats that would include sport, entertainment, business events. It also includes exhibitions, incentive tours, film, television, audiovisual productions, and so on and so on. It includes a range of activities hosted at a stadium, at a venue, or an audiovisual production facility. It even includes events hosted in a virtual online space. It's a broad spectrum of events that are inclusive. In August of last year, the NFVF, National Film and Video Foundation, released their 2021 economic assessment study that looked at the state of transformation in the audiovisual sector. They concluded that overall, there are low levels of inclusion and slow transformation in the audiovisual sector. Similar research has also been done and exists in the events industry, where we find high barriers to entry for venues and technical production companies because of the high capital costs that are required in most cases. There are almost no barriers to entry for event organizers who don't require a high capital investment, but events, it's a high-risk business, and despite the low barrier to entry, and perhaps even because of it, there's a high failure rate of startup businesses. In order to address these issues, we've taken a long look at the core elements of the B-BBEE scorecard and radically increased the transformation targets for the core ones, which are the ownership, management control, and skill development elements. We also have increased the points needed to achieve the various B-BBEE levels, so that while there are more points available in each categories, the targets are also increased. I'm just going to share with you a few examples of how of how this proposed scorecard deviates from the generic scorecard and a good practice to study is with the ownership. In this instance, the targets for exercisable voting rights in an entity held by black people is increased from 25% plus one voting share to 40. Our objective, of course, here is to incentivize organizations to increase the black participation in the industry boards. We've also increased the targets for the economic interest in which black people are entitled from 25% in the generic scorecard to 40% in our scorecard, with a corresponding increase in the weighting boards that accrue, as you can see from what we've done on the scorecard. We've now proposed a significant increase in the targets related to the economic interest of black persons in shared ownership schemes and cooperatives, raising the targets from 4% to 20% so that we can encourage black people to embrace empowerment structures and to encourage companies to sell shares to their employees. One of the big concerns that we've identified in the research carried out by the NFVF revolved around the failures of black employees to progress into middle management position. And so we've proposed a target to address this bottleneck and create an opportunity for junior employees to progress in their career. As you can see, the generic scorecard did not have this in existence. We created the weighting points of 4 and the target of 30%. We've also doubled the targets for the supplier enterprise development so that we encourage companies not only to create employment opportunities for their own staff, but also to create a black-owned supply chain that can feed into their business. We've increased the targets allocated to training and skills development, specifically because we want to encourage on-top-the-job training, mentorship, and work-integrated learning, as well as more formal employments and education that would lead to award of a qualification or a professional designation. And finally, we've increased the targets for socio-economic development because we believe that the events industry in particular has the potential to offer employment opportunities and feed into a much broader event community. We've often seen the development of micro-enterprises that can contribute to events with the production of local craft products. And so we've tried to take a very collaborative approach that takes into account other government initiatives. For example, SAQA, which is short for South African Qualifications Authority, has registered several professional designations in both the film and events industry. And we want to encourage people working in the sector to earn a professional designation that recognizes their skill, knowledge, and competence. While we have published our draft BEE scorecard, it is certainly a work in progress that will be amended based on your feedback and inputs. This is your opportunity to collaborate in the development of the industry-specific scorecard that promotes the BBBEE agenda without throttling the economic recovery of the sector as we emerge from this COVID pandemic. The film industry is in a similar situation. In the British film industry skills review published in June 2022, that Film Institute celebrated the British production boom, but also pointed to a looming crisis, suggesting that a shortage of as many as 40,000 workers will have arisen by 2025, with shooting schedules already affected. So those are the opportunities that will exist because of the development of these sector codes. Our sector is facing a real economic challenge, and we desperately need to focus on reviving the sector in order to create a sustainable future. At the same time, we need to address the historic inequality and create economic opportunity for Black people. We also need to promote training and skills development as a tool for economic recovery. Of course, if you'd like more information about our scorecard, please join us for all these provincial engagements that we've attached the list for the dates that we'll be visiting in the next few days. And of course, as I indicated, we do have a scorecard available on the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture website that you can put your further inputs into. I want to stop you and thank you and open this session for any questions and answers. Thank you.
I would like us to just clap for Mr. Selemani, just to appreciate the work that they've done. Now, for the first time, I need to stand up just to get to the mic. If you can help me with the mic. Thank you so much, colleagues. So we're going to take questions. Happy to take 3 questions and then give it to the panel to respond to some of the questions. And then, yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So we're going to take 3 questions and then we're going to give the panel a chance to respond. If you've got any questions, any concerns, we also do take compliments, you know. So if you really want to say anything, please raise your hand. I'm going to pick 3 hands now, and then we're going to give the floor, the forum a chance to respond, and then we take another round of questions. Okay, we've got 1 hand now. Okay, so there's a roaming mic that we're going to... I think we would appreciate if you could stand so that we can see, tell us who you are, and then where you're coming from, and then the question, and then we'll go around. I'll take the 1 question for now whilst you're giving yourself a chance to take in the information, and then you'll share your questions with us. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
All right. Dumelang bagaetsho. Leina la ka ke Bruce Lizwe. I'm a resident of Mafikeng and a practitioner within this sector, the film sector. I've gone through the documents and I must congratulate the team for a very well put together document. But as the Northwest Province from the site Asivsa, we will submit formal inputs to this document. And there's an issue that we have about this document. It's very silent on location. It speaks about rural, it speaks about those kind of things, but it is very silent on location. Location is fundamental to development. Location is fundamental to transformation. The panel in Bonada, I am willing to bet money that I don't have, that most of them are based in Gauteng or in Joburg. And this immediately speaks to location. When you are based in Gauteng, you think, no, it is because the industry is here. When you are based in Cape Town, you think it is because the industry is here. When you're based in Durban, so basically I'm speaking about metros. If you want to transform these things, there must be specific mention of location beyond the word rural. It must start stating outside of certain metros or outside of certain regions for these to actually apply and be able to develop things beyond the established things. Yes, we understand that there's this thing, what's it called, where sectors converge around where the services to service whatever need there is. What's the word, Rejubeta? Where things and services converge around servicing a need, you understand? But it disadvantages people who are outside of, some people do not want to live outside Gauteng. Within Gauteng, some people want to develop and practice while they're still based at their homes and stuff like that. So the codes must find a way to express that even it must be explicitly stated there that things that exist outside of the known metros will be supported by the codes. And this is very silent on that. And it is difficult to understand if you are based in Gauteng and if you've migrated to Gauteng or in. So that's one of the things that we wanted to contribute.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. Thank you very much, my brother. I think I just want to be clear on the definition of location. You mean township? Or what exactly, when you say location?
When I'm saying location, I mean being based outside of Gauteng, being based outside of Kanakeng, where Durban is, the district. Yeah, being based outside of metros. And kore ke batla ha ke tswa Verdwaal, ha ke tswa Monakato, if I'm from, I should be able to practice and these things benefit me when I'm based on that, and not necessarily kore I'm from Soweto, I'm from the townships around established areas. Because somebody in, I'll give you an example, somebody from Gauteng and Nadidier in the Val will have more advantages than somebody based Momajemansu in Mafikeng because of their proximity to established norms. You understand? So when we are saying location, we are not talking about township. We are talking about being based outside of metros or established provinces. That's what we call the codes should. You guys are very intelligent, and there's over 1,000 years of experience here. So you'll find a way to put it in.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very good point to be noted. I understand where it's coming from, and I think I agree with that. And I guess almost all my colleagues will make note of that. Thanks, my brother. You want to say something?
Thanks, Bruce, for your question. And it's a very, it's a comment, of course, that, it's both a comment and a question. He says it's silent on location. And I want to say this with regards to that. The forum did 2 researches during its period of existence. And this research informed it of a number of things. We discovered that the events are happening largely everywhere else, even in rural areas. But most of it is taking place in those big cities. in Gauteng, KZN, and Western Cape. To a large extent, to the Free State, to Mpumalanga, Northwest. And so, when we developed the scorecard, we took cognizance of that reality, that the people who are in all those areas, although it talks about rural areas as well, our scorecard, the focus is on where these activities are taking place. What we're basically saying is that if the government procures services wherever they are, whether rural or in those big cities, there must be regulations guiding government on how to go about. Even the entities that are going to benefit from procuring services from the government, they are also guided by these regulations. And your question is very extensive in a sense that over 20 years ago, one of the government's senior technocrat indicated to the government that there's a need for government to develop rural areas. And not only develop rural areas, but to develop mega cities all over the country so that you avoid a situation where people move away from rural areas to cities. You see what is happening in Joburg, for instance. People leave their homes to find jobs in cities. It shouldn't be that way. Had the government intervened earlier, this situation would not have persisted. But our scorecard is a living document. It revolves over the development affecting its environment. And as we progress with the scorecard, and so will the changes also come into effect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. And I just wanted to say, technically, from the verification's point of view, the rural areas are a priority for skills development and employment equity. So they should be covered in those documents, which is a requirement that if you are going to participate in the B-BBEE scorecard, you need to submit certain documents to your relevant SETAs, and it is a requirement that you identify people that are in rural areas. So you will have people that are working for you that are all over the place, but they specify to say, have you trained people in the rural areas? What is the percentage? And they acknowledge and give you more money as a business when you have identified people in the rural areas. And I think because this is an overarching document, some of the other acts that are supporting it don't get mentioned, but they do really carry the B-BBEE, and they close the gaps that the other acts like employment equity, your labours, Basic Conditions of Employment Act, as well as your Skills Development and Skills Development Levies Act. They are underneath the overarching, which is the B-BBEE, and those are very specific to the people that live in rural areas. Those are the people that are prioritized. And then Antate Selemane spoke about the new entrants and the scheme and getting black people into the communities. They're specific to say it should be people in the rural areas. So, and I want to reassure you that the Department of Sports, Culture and Recreation in the Northwest cannot outsource somebody in Joburg to do the work. They need to use people in their spaces. So the work is also with us. So we need to own the responsibility. Somebody said there's an act, but it's not working. But I'm like, you are the person who's supposed to put the act in place. Thank you. Are we going to take another question? We've got the gentleman there.
Good morning, colleagues, and also the lovely panel over there, and my favorite comrade there, Ubaba Freddy Nyathela. My name is Tapelo Mkutswane, and from Northwest Cultural and Creative Industry Incubation Hub. I wanted to speak to page 50 of the document that actually speaks about the role of ETPSA Council, which to reflect on, to say, as we speak, this is a forum. Now, obviously, as this document guides, it says the role of the EPT Council, which means from now on, as being a forum, you're going to automatically turn into what you call ETPS Council, Sector Council. But now, as that happens, I feel uncomfortable a little bit with regard to that, to say, which I did indicate last time when in Pretoria, where I was asking a basic question to say, where is CIFSA in this setup? And then Mr. China Mpololo was not comfortable with that. He was a bit boiling now, but I want to repeat it again, to say, I really recommend to say, going forward, let's have ETPS forums within the provinces, so as they all speak to the National Council, Sector Council Forum, if it happens. Because where we're sitting now, I see most of the organizations that are nationally based, which at some point we are forced to associate to affiliate to, for us to be able to fall within the council, if I may be right. Because if that is the case, it then put us in a corner to say, I have to be under SAMPRA, so as I should now fall within that, if I may be right again. So given what is written here on the document, so that means going forward, this forum would actually turn into a charter council that will have a mandate. But then how will everybody participate or make sure that the people are elected? And who's going to be electing those people? Because that then becomes now a bit tricky for me. Isn't it that somebody's actually posing himself ahead of us already before we can even think? So we need a true reflection and representation of the event sectors from the provinces, from the ground. That's one thing that I really want to emphasize, and also get clarity from the panel now to say, what is the plan going forward? Yes, the beautiful job is done. I congratulate you guys, gentlemen and ladies, for putting up this document and making sure that this comes to our attention in terms of issues that are raised here. But my issue is one: true reflection of the people who are involved in the sectors on the ground. In Northwest, we do have people that are into events, whatever. They need to be part of this as much as we can. I know it might be a wagon that is already on the road, but we really need to have that forum set up in the provinces, so as we contribute nationally, and then when the opportunity comes that now this becomes a formal sector with a mandate, we do have a representations in the province. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tapelo. Your proposal is that there must be more ETPTF forums in different provinces. I think it's a beautiful idea. But the formation of this forum, and as you rightly pointed out, it will ultimately convert into a council. Its formation is guided by the government regulations. We are formed as associations, not as individuals. And so the forum will not be able to accept individuals as members. As I indicated to you, this forum is divided into many different sector events, technical, production, and audiovisual sector. All these sectors are represented in this forum by the different associations. And so it becomes very important that you as an individual, you become a member of those associations. Sakia, for instance, has got over 200 members in its forum. It is for this reason that we go into all these different provinces to give this information so that those individuals who are feel left out can come in, become members of these different associations. I know, for instance, SAMPA has an office here in Northwest, and it's currently running a campaign to recruit members to join the association. Once these associations have members, those members are the ones who actually will give input into the documents. And so there is never a situation where members on their own, like we are, elect ourselves or appoint ourselves into these positions. Associations meet and through their AGMs nominate and mandate certain individuals to represent them in the forum. And so I would urge you, Tapelo, that instead of pursuing ETF to establish a branch here which is against the law, the way the DTIC regulations guides the establishment of these charter council, it's such that they are formed by associations. And so I would urge you to find one of the associations will definitely sit within the business that you are conducting amongst all these forum members that are here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tabelo, and the chairperson for taking that. Do we have another question? Happiness. It looks like we are happy. No other questions, no compliments. I know we received 2 compliments. Maybe we can give ourselves a round of applause for those for those compliments. Thank you, colleagues. I think I'm going to hand over to. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Leanne to give some feedback, then hand over to the chairperson to close for us if there are any there are no more questions. And then the forum members will stay behind if you have any other burning question but you couldn't raise it in this platform. Otherwise, like I said, there will be an email that you can use, go through the document, and then you can submit your email comments, compliments, and criticism. Okay, we've got another gentleman. Should I just take this gentleman and then we go to you, Leah? Thank you.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. My name is Nicodemus Jim, normally known as Nico Jim, from Jimbanix Events Management Company. Mine is just a small question or a short question to say. Previously or even currently, we've been experiencing a problem whereby you'll find that there is big companies that will be maybe appointed to come and do the event within the province. And that company will not be able to at least work together with the smaller company the smaller business company that we find in the province or within whatever area that the event might be. And my question would be, what will be the model or the code that is going to be used to make sure that whichever the company, which is a big company, that is appointed to come and do maybe such a big event within the province or within a certain area, how will they make sure that they work together or collaborate with the smaller company that needs to be at least, I don't know how to put it, but not, that need to be at least elevated from lower scale to the upper nyana, you know, like what they are doing within the construction. If you are in level 1, once you have done a certain project under subcontracting of a bigger companies, you will then graduate from level 1 to level 2. That's my question, basically. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think, no, my point is exactly his question. I think you read my mind, sir. So I was about to clarify that point. Many of you were in the Joburg session, and a lot of the questions have come from there. If you re-go through the document, you'll see that highlighted in red are a lot of the changes that we have subsequently made because of the questions we had, the input we had from you specifically. And that point that you've just made is a critical part of the document, and we have made changes. It's in the procurement area, and the way in which we have dealt with it is, if you have a look, we've increased points. So as you said, a big company will get the tender to do the job. How will they then work with the smaller one-man organizations, the SMEs, etc.? We've increased points for those companies to procure the experience and the technical knowledge of the smaller organizations to work with you. This is a 3-tiered approach. So the first thing is that it gives you, the smaller organization, or the one-man person, an opportunity to work within a larger field and spread your expertise and knowledge. The other thing for you is that you get the opportunity to network, get your name out there, get known to the bigger organizations. And the more skill you have, the more you're going to be recognized and worked with in the future. And the last thing for you is about your skills development. You'll learn and you'll grow, and you will be trained into doing different things or varying degrees of your own expertise. So we have, and we've also increased the bonus points for procurement, where larger organizations are encouraged to work with smaller companies when they get a tender for a government position. So we took your comments from all the previous engagements we've had, and we did listen to you, and we have increased that because of those reasons. I hope that answers your question, and I was about to say that is what we were doing when you asked the question. So thank you very much. It's most appreciated. That is all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. I think I'll call then the chairperson to close the session for us. And as I indicated, the forum members will be here just to take more questions or to engage further, should you want that engagement. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for being such a wonderful crowd. Thank you. I think a round of applause for you. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. It's been a wonderful engagement with you. And as we've said earlier, that this document is in its draft format. With your inputs, we will be finalizing this document. And so there is no stupid question. You are free to ask any question. This document is available, or the inputs are still acceptable until middle of February. So throw in any question, throw in any input that you think it's necessary for us to adjust this document. We certainly will look into what your proposal is and adjust the document accordingly. I really want to thank you for your engagement, and thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye. Oh yes, I've just been informed we finish a bit early. Lunch will be at 12:30, which is 20 minutes from now on. Please hang around.
I think you need to take the designation situation out. Take it out. It's not relevant. It's processing an individual agenda. It's not what we're here for. It shifts the it does. You're not here to promote individuals. No, you do it well. No, you're amazing. You're amazing. And you engaged with the people. You engaged with the people. No, you're amazing. And that's why there was so many questions, because you addressed it clear, you had their attention, you got them, they got you. It's so much more positive. There isn't why you are pointed at where it's. No, really. Oh, yes, you're the best presenter.
Sorry, colleagues. So Chair, we can close the live show. All right, thank you.
It's going to be the biggest change. We're in those sections, so we highlighted this. It was just that the last sections I spoke about, if there is that question, and that's why I highlighted where I go, because it's the biggest change that we've made. So it is the biggest change we've made, because the procurement thing is for the small businesses, and that is, but as I said,